Okay, now what we're going to look at in this week's class is basically two areas. Teaching, which you will make a difference in terms, which will make a difference in terms of age or proficiency. All right. So age means your actual age. So it could be children, adolescents, adults. All right. And we'll look at how it differs. Right. So when you say teaching across age levels, these are the three groups I mentioned, they shouldn't be confused with um, proficiency. A child who speaks English at home all the time comes to your ESL class at the age of 7, may be already a proficient user of the language. All right, the usage is almost automaticity there. It's almost automatic. All right, but an adult who comes from a non-English speaking country, no exposure at all, and wants to learn the language, the proficiency level is low. All right, so it doesn't mean that if you are an adult, your proficiency should be higher, and children have lower proficiency. You need to look at what levels they are. Okay, so today, the first part, we're going to look at age levels. All right, so the definition for age children is up to 11, then teens would be 12 to 18, and 18 and above is considered adult. Okay. All right. So what's the difference between teaching children and adults? Right. First thing is children are spontaneous. Okay. And their focus on language forms is very much a peripheral. That means it's just the outside. It's not really into what you are teaching. Right? When you, for example, if I teach subject verb agreement, I don't say subject verb agreement, but I'll say one person, you say like this, many people, you say like this. That's all I would say. I won't go further to explain anything. I won't even give you a term. All right. And you would see the reactions are very spontaneous from students. Okay. Because that is all that children can pay attention to. It's very much the basic overall thing. Whereas for adults, it's very much overt, like it is not spontaneous. They have to think and then they will answer. And the focus is very much on what you are teaching. So if you teach subject verb agreement, they actually pay attention to it. Children don't bother. So they will make those mistakes. That's why you have to remind them consistently. Hey, what did I say? What did I say? All right. And then they would repeat it properly, but not for adults. Adults, you don't need to repeat that because they know exactly what to zoom into. But they are not spontaneous. Like you ask a question, they wouldn't answer immediately. They will think first before they answer. All right. And children are natural language learners, whereas adults can learn and retain larger vocabulary. So adults, you can actually teach 5,000 words over 3 months, they can learn. Children, you cannot have a checklist. They are natural language learners. So the more you use the words, that's what they will remember. As long as you don't use that word, they won't know. So whatever words they come in contact with, they have heard or they use the words or someone has used they have contact, communicated, then they will learn those words. But adults can learn more than that. All right. Children, it has to be concrete operations. This is where the difference in your teaching aids will come. They need to see things. You have to show. If I say it's red, then you have to bring something red in color and show them. All right. Whereas for adults, you can actually explain and they can visualize it. So there's a lot more abstract processes that happens in adults, whereas children don't have that ability. All right. For children, it has to be concrete. All right. And in terms of context of classroom instruction, you can introduce something that is a bit more challenging for children, but you have to be careful because not all the kids can take on that challenge. All right. And those who can't will just give up. Whereas for adults, they can actually learn something faster. And if they don't understand something, they won't give up. They'll try to make sense of it. They'll ask the teacher, they'll find out, ways of learning it. Whereas children, if they don't understand something, they'll just give up and move on. All right. That's the nature of people because that's how we are. Our maturity level is so much lower when we are kid compared to when we are adults. All right. So certain things that we need to consider when teaching children and adults: intellectual development, attention span, sensory input, effective factors, authentic and meaningful language. All right. Okay. So teaching children, because it's concrete operations, you cannot explain rules. Whatever explanation you give, you have to give examples, lots and lots of examples. So you cannot give rules. You cannot say, okay, if one person, then you use your verbs with as. If many people, then you don't have as. You can't say that. It wouldn't make sense. All right. It has to go through a lot of examples. So this is when you add on more examples, it's more like repetition of the pattern. You're not repeating the content, but the pattern is repeated. So this way they will understand, oh, okay, if it's one person, then it's with S. So they will make up the rule themselves. All right. Mainly because their maturity level is lower. They cannot process so much of information. How long do you think children's cartoons last? Maximum, the duration for a cartoon,
30 minutes.
30 minutes, minus all the advertisements in between,
Around 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay. So that's all that they can concentrate on. But if adults watch movies, like how long can you watch a 4-hour movie?
Yes.
Okay, and you wouldn't lose the concentration. You would be able to follow the storyline. All right, whereas children can't process information for that long. That is why their programs are usually shorter. Even if it is an animated movie, you would realize an animated movies are less than 1.5 hours. Normal movie is 1.5 hours. You would find animation usually 1 hour plus, 1 hour 5 minutes, 1 hour 15 minutes maximum. All right, unless the animated movie is not meant for children, then it would be a long movie. Children's programs are always shorter, all right, because of their maturity level, the intellectual development. All right, you would learn this in detail in psychology, but I think you need to know them because we are dealing with the lessons after this. So you need to understand your learners. All right. Of course, we are not teaching young children, but one day you will be parents of little kids, and this is something you can do at home as well. All right. Okay. Attention span. So because of the ability to only concentrate in a short period of time, the span of attention is also shorter. All right. So it's that very moment that they can uh, pay attention and they'll remember because they have focused on it. right? Unless it's something of their interest. If it is something of their interest, they'll sit down, listen, and they'll do it. If they don't like it, they just won't bother. All right? Not all children like to color or paint. So some children will just do the work for the sake of doing, and some children will actually pay a lot more attention to the details. All right? So that you can't say the student who doesn't pay attention is useless in art. Just that the attention span is short and it is not of their interest. Not that they are dumb, okay? Because that is how children are looked at. Okay, there's this misconception because they are this ability to spend to focus longer. All right. So it's all about now and this moment. So the activities will have to be interesting, must be enthusiastic, and the teacher must also be animated. All right. Your voice through will be different, the way you speak to the kids. All right. But I also noticed that my students, when they go for practicum, they also end up talking as if the students were little kids. Remember, when you're teaching adolescents, it's a little different. You cannot treat them like children. All right, then they won't be engaged in the lesson. Okay, a sense of humor will help because children love to laugh. All right, and ask them questions, make them curious so that they will pay attention. Do you know why this is such? Then they'll say no. Say, do you want to know why? Okay, if you can sit quietly for another 2 minutes, I'll tell you why. Then they'll really sit quietly because they really want to know why. All right. So this kind of method we would use for teaching children because we know that they that is how they would learn. All right. They would also appreciate something that would deal with the five senses. Okay. Have you heard of TPR?